Welcome, everybody, back to the Still Talking Podcast. My name is Joe Still, host of the Still Talking Podcast. Today, I brought a very good person running in public service, Mark Townsend. Welcome. Introduce yourself, please.
Thanks very much, Joe. Mark Townsend. I'm from Carver. I'm the chairman of the Carver Select Board, and I'm running for state representative here in the 2nd Plymouth District.
Okay,
Carver,
I was just going
Wareham,
to ask that. So,
and three precincts in Middleborough. 2 precincts, 3, 6, and 7A.
A lot of people don't know that, actually. They assume it's the whole town of Middleborough.
They don't, and so I'm glad you asked.
Well, very good. Mark, give us a little bit more about yourself. Like, you've been on the Carver Select Board for a while now.
I'm in my 9th year.
9th year.
Yeah.
Okay. This is my 2nd year on the Wareham Select Board. So
Congratulations.
You beat me by a handful of years.
Yeah,
there,
well,
so.
well, I think I'm a little older than you, Joey. So.
Oh, just a little? I don't know. Mark, why did you run for state representative? That's a question you're going to get asked a lot. And
I have been asked that a lot, and it really was a slow decision. It was not a fast decision. We had a home rule petition in Carver we had a water district, the North Carver Water District, created a long time ago, back in 1987, I believe. It was a small commercial water district at the time. Gradually, it became more of a residential district. And the town made a decision at town meeting in 2025 to get rid of the North Carver Water District and make the select board, the water commissioners. That required legislative action. So town meeting passed it, got sent up to the legislature, got acted on fairly quickly in the Senate, but it bogged down in the House. And that made me and the rest of the board, and quite frankly, a little frustrated. So I started to talk to people in our towns. I know from being on the select board for so long, I've worked with people in different towns. So I talked to a couple of select board members. You were one of them in Wareham, a couple of people in Middleborough about this, and had they had any similar experiences. And one of the things I found when talking to them was they didn't really see much of our state representative, who of course is the person that has to get that done in the state house. So, one thing led to another. And somewhere along the line, I ran into a news story, I don't remember where, that the representative had missed a number of votes. And that was like one more thing. And at that point, I started talking to my wife and, a couple of select board members that I know, and, started discussing, should I run? And people seemed to feel it was a good idea. So here I am.
I think it's a phenomenal idea. I think when you're hired to do a job, you have to show up and do that job to the best of your ability. I know a lot of people will self-proclaim themselves and say they'll do the job, but what comes after that? What are the signs? And thank you for answering all those. Quite honestly, those are solid enough reasons to me. Why would anyone else run? Why would someone take scrutiny to their name? Why would somebody, put themselves out there and try to go work on Beacon Hill with, some of the worst and best people in the world out there?
Well, I think most people that run for public office have public service in mind and are public service oriented. I certainly am. I enjoy, meeting with people. Listen, this campaign has been a pleasure. I've met so many nice people in Middleborough and especially Wareham. I knew a lot of people in Middleborough already, but I didn't know a whole lot of people in Wareham. And we've been to so many nice events and met so many nice people. And quite frankly, we've met people that we'll be friends with for a long time, whether we were successful or not. So it's been a pleasure.
Well, and I know that exact feeling, having just been on my sophomore term here in Select Board, that the people you meet and the people you get to shake hands with, those are friends. And then, they continue to be friends and they're allies. And, things happen very strangely on the campaign trail. So I can imagine I can feel a lot of that with some of my own experience on the Select Board. But one question I really want to point on here, Mark, and it's, what do you think the State House needs less of and more of, do you think?
Well, what they need more of, I'll tell you right now, is transparency. I think that's pretty easy. They're not subject to the public records law, like the Wareham Select Board and the Carver Select Board and every other select board is. And that's, I think, a little bit ridiculous. And we need to change that. So that's something they definitely need more of. What they need less of, I think, is just less posturing and more people concentrating on getting things done. And that's what you do. I don't want to go up to Boston just to vote no on things. I want to go up to Boston and try to get some things done to help people in the district. So I would say that's what they
Well, and I would have to agree with that. I think they lack transparency more than anything. I mean, when 72% of people vote for an audit and you clearly don't see that audit, it's
And
certainly a tricky slope.
well, that's right. And it leads to the question, what are you trying to hide, right? And why wouldn't you have the audit? And yeah, it makes no sense.
Well, let's focus on this more campaign-wise, Mark. What are like some of the priorities you would want to get done here on Beacon Hill? Is it affordability? Is there?
Affordability is definitely number one. I think, when I'm out knocking doors, Joey, and I've knocked over 2,600 doors at this point, just myself. A team has knocked more, but I hear the same things over and over, and it's affordability is always number one. And we just have to take steps on Beacon Hill to help people out. Especially, normally I bring a copy of my electric bill everywhere I went. I left it in my car, so I'll virtually hold my electric bill. But when you look at that, over 50% of the charges on your electric bill or your gas bill or your utility bill are fees and not the actual utility. And that's ridiculous. And we need to change that. That should be an easy one to do. And quite frankly, it should be an easy one to get Democrats to agree to, because quite frankly, whether you're in a Democrat district or a Republican district, people still have challenges with affordability.
It's a very nonpartisan thing. I would assume that if money was in question about able to live, I'd look at the young generation myself.
It sure is.
These young people trying to buy houses and they can't afford them solely because of the cost. And
That's right. I
and the
knocked
burden.
on a door the other day, and the person showed me that their electric bill was over $900. I mean, that's ridiculous. Thankfully, mine's not that high, but that's when you think of over half of that is fees and not even the electricity. That's just not right. And when you have to pay that, you're a senior citizen, you're on a fixed income, and you have to pay that electric bill. That means you can't pay other things, and that's an issue. And there are other issues out there that we could probably talk for an hour and a half about different things that need to get done. But I think affordability is number one with almost everyone out there in the district.
Okay, well, what would you give your other ones here? Is there anything kind of fiscal with the state that you would criticize on and propose that you do some stuff?
Obviously, what people have to realize when they go to Beacon Hill is that they're not. This money is not just created up there. Any dollar that they spend, it comes from you and the folks out there. They have to send it to Beacon Hill before they send it back. And it's just ridiculous. Local aid clearly needs to be addressed, and the formulas for local aid need to be changed. Just recently in Wareham, there was an article in Wareham Week that Wareham got an additional $500,000 in local aid, but got an additional $900,000 in bills from the state. And that math doesn't work. And when people look at their local taxes and why certain things don't get done locally, well, that's one of the reasons, is because you unless you want to do a debt exclusion, which obviously the people in Wareham, and I don't think all of our towns want, you can't continue to send that money back to Beacon Hill. Beacon Hill has to help you and not hurt you.
Okay. That's how government's supposed to work.
That's how government's supposed to work.
And the wheels of government have moved slow over these last few years. I am still very much a young person. I don't remember a time Massachusetts was fiscally responsible. To be honest, I feel this state has constantly spent, and not gotten to the finish line. We talked about the affordability part. We talked about the fiscal part of this. What do you see that you've gotten done locally? You said 9 years now on the Carver Select Board in that town. What do you see that you can add to Beacon Hill? There's a lot of conversations around, why should somebody be a state representative? Well, why should Mark be a state representative? What's the experience like from the select board to the Beacon Hill steps?
Well, I think when you go up to Beacon Hill, it's the same on a select board, and you see this in Wareham. You have to be able to work with the other members of your board and find common ground, right? You have to be able to bring coalitions together to get things done. In Carver, during my time on the board, we were lucky enough, we built a new police station with no debt exclusion. We built it under the levy limit. When COVID came along and all these ARPA monies started coming into towns, you see all over the South Shore now, towns are in trouble because they spent a lot of that money on one-time things, salaries, things like that. You can't do that with one-time money. And we didn't do that. I brought a coalition together of all the different departments in town. We had meetings, we identified priorities, and we used that ARPA money to do long-term things that will benefit the towns long-term, benefiting the towns now. One of the things we did was a beautiful deck off the back of our senior center that wasn't there before. And COVID is long in the rearview mirror now, but those folks are still out there enjoying that deck every week, and it's nice to see. So you have to think long-term. Yeah. But to get that stuff done, you have to bring people together and be able to. You can't. That's one of the reasons when I talk about the representative missing votes. Well, you can't be up there building a coalition if you don't know who else is there. And to do that, you have to be there. So I think I bring the ability to bring people together and build coalitions, and that's what you need to do to get things done.
I like that. I like that. Now, I mentioned this before to me that you run your own business, or you're most recently retired.
I recently, last 2 weeks, 2 weeks ago, I retired. So I had an insurance agency. We started in 1991, and I just recently sold my interest. So.
Well, there you go. It's happy in retirement and then going back to
There
work.
you go. Going back to work.
Now, and you've had experience on the Republican town committees and,
Sure.
and overall general landscape of being a Republican, right?
Yeah. I was the chairman of the Carver Republican Town Committee for a long time. I stepped down a few years ago. I'm no longer the chairman. I was also the chairman of the Plymouth County Republican Club for many years. And again, I just recently stepped down to focus on some other things. But yeah, I've had experience in Republican politics for a long time.
Okay. Yeah, and I've seen a handful of Republicans come up in this district. Susan Gifford, who I met a handful of times. Actually, she was in office the entire time I was actually alive, about 23, 24 years. So, having that kind of Republican in office, and then, when Mr. Gasky ran his campaign and came into office, how do you see that being reflected on each other? I feel like a lot of people in the district felt Susan Gifford was a great representative. That's why they voted her in about 23 years in a row.
Right.
And then you have a guy like Gasky who apparently is missing votes and
it's certainly a change. Like I said, when I decided to run, one of the reasons I decided to run was the folks in Wareham. I think you were one of them, at Middleborough and certainly in Carver. We haven't seen a lot of Representative Gasky, and we had seen a lot of Susan. So, yeah, you can't know what the towns need unless you're visible in the towns. I think one of the first things I would do if I'm fortunate enough to be elected is get on an agenda for each one of the select boards and just listen, not go in there and talk about what I want to do or what I think we should do, or just listen to what people in the towns need. I want them to know that, my door is always open, and you can always call, and I'll pick up the phone and I'll talk. And I think that's the kind of support towns need. What Wareham needs is not necessarily what Middleborough needs, and that's not necessarily what Carver needs. The needs are different in every town.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you say that, getting on the agenda item. Just sharing a personal story. There's no bias in this. It's simply just a fact. I was elected at 23 years old on the Wareham Select Board.
Quite an achievement. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm about to be 25 in January. So in those 2 years since being elected, Mr. Gasky has only been seen once in the Select Board room. Serving some citizens, right? Stands up there and spoke, but that was 2 weeks ago. And that was the first time we've ever seen him in the Select Board room. So it's interesting that you're saying get on these agendas because, I feel like our state senator, Kelly Dooner, she's phenomenal with that. She's been in that room a handful of times. She's met everyone, Select Board member. She's met everybody in the town hall. And having a representative that, is in government, not just on Beacon Hill, but inside the municipality's government is at least for me, a big value add. And I'd hope the viewers watching can understand that if someone can take their time to go meet with some people at town hall, that shows me so much more.
It just makes sense. How can you represent people if they don't have a relationship? So it just makes sense. And it's not just going to town hall, by the way. It's getting out there and meeting with veterans groups and other local groups, councils on aging and things like that. You need to be present in the community. And I think you have to enjoy it, and I enjoy it. So.
Well, is there anything else you want to give the viewers here watching, Mark, before we close all this out? Is there a last couple words you would tell these folks?
Yeah,
the September election is right around the corner.
It is a week away, virtually a week away, September 1st. So please make sure you vote in the Republican primary on September 1st, if not before. No, just quite frankly, Joey, I just want the viewers to know that I'm a very transparent person. I believe in accountability for government, and I just think we need a more visible presence on Beacon Hill. That's all. I think Kelly Dooner, our state senator, has made a point of that during her first term, and you see her everywhere. And that's I want to duplicate the same thing in our district. So.
Well, you'd be a fantastic state representative, Mark, and hopefully you'll be on Beacon Hill sometime soon. So
Fingers crossed.
So thank you for coming on.
My pleasure.
Everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the Still Talking podcast. Again, this has been Joe Still and Mark Townsend. See you soon.
Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.